Hello and welcome to Setting Objectives in the Classroom and the Importance of It. My name is Sloan Anderson and I am going to be sharing all of my thoughts, so let's dive right in. So the main thing to know about setting objectives is the objective is a statement that describes to the students what they are expected to learn and be able to do based on state standards. So these might be I can statements or the student will statements, but the importance of reminding yourself and your students is the why. So the why to these objectives is because we want them to be purposeful, specific, and clear. This is super important to your students so that they are fully understanding. So let's dive into purposeful. Purposeful is you are connecting the learning to previous and future learning. So you want to gather your students' attention right off the bat and be like, hey, this is what we talked about last week, and this is why we're learning this week. You also want to help them understand that what they're learning right now is going to help them in their future. And it will apply to all the future learning that you do in your classroom. It's super important so that students don't think that this is silly and that it really has a purpose. The next thing is being specific. So state exactly what is being taught, but don't be too restrictive. So for example, too specific might be describe the function of the respiratory system in 3 sentences. 3 sentences is too specific. Get rid of that statement and add in a paragraph. That broadens the area that students can share how they know something without being too specific, and they're able to share what they know in their way. Lastly, we want our objectives to be super clear. So clearly state the objectives to the students and your parents. So with students, you can verbally state this. You can display it on boards or revisit it to a lesson. Parents, you definitely want them to be involved and engaged with their students' learning. So maybe send a weekly email or a weekly wrap-up, letters sent home at the end of the week. Whatever you can do so that parents understand what's going on. So important. One other thing I want to dive into is the importance of positive feedback in the classroom. This is so important to your students. And think about what a big difference it makes when they're getting that positive feedback, because we've all had that one teacher. So really quickly, we're just going to talk about the why, the how, and the what goes into positive feedback. And I'm sure you already are thinking, I know this teacher that gave me great positive feedback, or I know a teacher that didn't give me positive feedback, and we want to be the one that's great. So the why is, why do we give positive feedback? This provides students with information on what they got correct, but also points out what needs to be worked on. So we want to include why it is correct or why it is not correct, or why they did great or why they didn't do so great. That way students understand why they're getting the feedback. Do you understand why now? Hopefully you've got the gist of it. But it's so important to really be specific with your feedback and explaining to the students why you're giving them the grade that they've gotten, or why you're praising them, or why they need to work on something a little bit more. Next is the how. How do you give feedback? On an appropriate time schedule. You do not want to give your students an assignment that's due at the beginning of August and not give them feedback until the end of December. They don't remember what that assignment was, why they did the assignment. For much, they probably don't even care. So give it back quickly so that it's still on their mind and it's still on your mind as well. Lastly is the what. What does feedback do for your kids? It keeps your students engaged and it shows them that every assignment has a purpose. If they're turning in homework that you're not even looking at, then what's the purpose of them doing it? I know that when I'm in a class, if a teacher's not going to be looking at something, I'm most likely not going to do as well as if I know they're going to be diving in deep and trying to give me better feedback. So let's do a quick activity. Draw a flower. Hopefully you have that flower. You can see 2 pictures up on my screen right now. One is colorful, one is just black and white. We can give positive feedback on both of these. I can say, wow, I love the way you use color, or wow, I love how you added detail to your flower in the leaves, etc. It's so important that we provide that positive feedback. Not enough feedback would be like, great job, nice work. This doesn't explain to the students why you're saying that. Instead, you want to use, I love how you added detail, or I love how you drew more than one flower and added some grass. And my favorite is, thank you for adding color with your crayons. Everyone wants to see a colorful flower. So it's definitely important to point out those big details of why you love it so much. Some other examples might be like, I love how you have a bubble in your mouth. Not great job. It's not motivating to the student or the ones around them. So really quickly, let's recap the why to positive feedback. It provides the students with information on what they did correctly, shows them why you're telling them what they did great or why they're not doing so great. How? Give it in a quick and appropriate time manner. And lastly, the importance of what does it do for them is it keeps them engaged and helps them find the importance of every assignment that you have them do. So definitely dive deep with your students and teach them the best way that can help them. If you have any questions, let me know.